Neanderthals were our primal ancestors, and their testosterone used to be between 1,500 and 2,000.
And what did those cavemen become? Me and you. That's what they became. That is what they wanted.
Today I'm going to be going over what got my testosterone to the top 1%, 934 specifically, which is outside of the reference range. I'm aiming to get this around 1,200.
And so his testosterone levels are already at 934 nanograms per deciliter. That's in the top 1%, elite level testosterone levels. But he's not satisfied. He needs to get it to 1,200. But why?
I have a few things I want to try. I'm not going to tell you them yet.
And so the first thing you notice when hearing this guy is listen to his voice. It's literally the opposite of Coach Greg. And so you're thinking, hey, if you have higher levels of testosterone, you're going to have a higher voice. I abused steroids for 10 years and listen to me.
Right now, to help you judge your testosterone.
All right, and so right now he's telling us to judge your testosterone, so I'm going to expect him to say, go and get your blood work done and see a baseline of testosterone. But what instead does he suggest?
I want you to write down 4 factors. First, your energy.
And so first things first, do you have enough energy? If you do, it's a good sign that you have enough testosterone.
Second, your sexual desire.
And second, if you have enough sexual desire, perhaps you want to have sexy time every single day, or you have it often enough, you're not dissatisfied with that, also a good sign that you have enough testosterone.
Third, your muscle in your upper body, specifically your shoulders, traps, and upper chest.
The third sign, look at your upper body muscle, in particular, the shoulders, the traps, and the upper chest. Why? Why are we looking at our upper chest to decide if we have enough muscle, enough testosterone? Last I checked, when Larry Wheels was younger, his upper chest was not as developed as it is today. Does that mean he had low levels of testosterone as a teenager? I certainly don't think that when he was bench pressing 500 pounds as a teenager, he had low levels of testosterone. And it really is a myth. People think that if you take testosterone, suddenly your traps and delts and upper chest are suddenly going to grow faster than weeds. I can tell you, when I first used steroids, the first thing I noticed was my legs. My legs above everything made tremendous improvements. My quads, hamstrings, calves, everything got bigger and leaner in comparison to the rest of my physique. And so for me, no. When I used steroids, it wasn't shoulders and traps and upper chest that was noticeable. It was, in fact, my legs.
And then fourth, how much do you like working hard?
And fourth, a great point, do you enjoy pushing yourself? Because higher levels of testosterone are conducive to making effort feel better. If you're training harder than last time, you actually enjoy it more when you're on testosterone. This is an obvious sign of testosterone. If you have higher levels of testosterone, it feels better to push yourself hard. And when you have lower levels of testosterone, it feels worse. Just because you don't feel like training hard doesn't mean you don't have high levels of testosterone. You might just be unmotivated. You might not like what you're doing. For example, when I was in high school, I did not like studying history. I did not like memorization. And so just because I didn't like studying history, because I didn't enjoy it, didn't mean I have low levels of testosterone. But ask me to go for a run, a swim, a bike, I could train for hours. And so one thing we need to consider is that we don't just want higher levels of testosterone to build more muscle. There are many other factors. For example, le joie de vivre, enjoyment from life, enjoying putting in effort, whether it's exercise or studying or simply going about our daily chores. If you have higher levels of testosterone, perhaps even if it's only 100 or 200 nanograms per deciliter, and you were previously too low, it's going to feel much better to be alive.
Most people think testosterone is mostly genetic, and while genetics do play a role, testosterone did not used to be a thing that was low.
How does he know this? Where does the data come from? Is he studying a meta-analysis on caveman testosterone levels? Because you can't just say, oh, but back then it was this. We simply don't have the long-term epidemiological data to draw from. And also, the testing that was done 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, those tests were not as accurate as those today. And consider, who are they using for their tests? Were those people morbidly obese? Were they healthy? Were they eating correctly? And so when you compare data from 50 years ago till today, are we comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges? If you take 1,000 people and compare their testosterone in the 1950s to 1,000 people of today, Well, guess what? In the 1950s, those 1,000 people were not playing Nintendo and gaming and swiping left and right from morning till night. And so just because their testosterone levels were perhaps higher back then than they are now, is it applying to everyone? Or perhaps just the fact that people don't eat healthy, they don't exercise, that is why they have lower levels of testosterone. And so World Obesity Atlas 2023 states that global study predicts that more than half the global population will be living with overweight and obesity within 12 years if prevention, treatment, and support do not improve. And so clearly, we know that genetics affects your testosterone levels, but environmental factors also do that. And so if you want to raise your testosterone levels, try doing some cardio and try not being morbidly obese.
Test has dropped by around 50% since 1950. The average testosterone used to be my score right now.
I don't know if I'm going to go with that. The average score in 1950 was in the 900s and now it's much lower. Is this true? Is it false? What people were used in the studies? Were they only testing fit men? Were they studying people who were perhaps sick? Consider that with modern technology, many infants who would have died at an early age are now living beyond that age. And so are we drawing from the same groups of clients? Think of it. If you were born 100 years ago, for example, the chance of you making it to your teen years or in your 20s was a lot lower. You died of certain illnesses, diseases, and perhaps people with those illnesses had lower levels of testosterone. So again, you need to compare apples to apples.
I'm not going to be covering the basic stuff you hear every day, like don't drink, work out, get your sleep.
And so he says he's not going to cover the main things that you need to hear about. For example, work out, get enough sleep, don't drink alcohol, don't abuse recreational drugs. Why aren't we covering those things? Those are the most important things. Everything else, not going to make that much difference. Do you really think he's going to go from 900 plus nanograms to deciliter to suddenly 1,200 by doing things with minor differences? You see, this is the problem. People worry about the 10% rather than the 90%. You're going to focus on all these small, minor details that are going to basically do nothing. Perhaps you'll go from 924 nanograms of deciliter to 925. Is that going to make a difference? No. Worry about your sleep. Worry about your exercise, reducing stress, about taking in proper vitamins, minerals, having a healthy diet.
I also wanted to say testosterone doesn't just have physical benefits. A lot of it is the cognitive benefits, making you more productive, making you work towards a better future.
And so absolutely, higher levels of testosterone, it's not just about the physical, but the mental as well. Think of it, you can think more clearly, you're more focused, your effort feels better, you want to work harder. These are clearly very beneficial.
So Neanderthals were our primal ancestors, and their testosterone used to be between 1,500 and 2,000.
And so primal ancestors, their testosterone levels were between 1,500 and 2,000. Is this guy, in fact, Jeff Goldblum? Was he, in fact, making a next version of Jurassic Park, the caveman edition, where they're going to reinstall cavemen with testosterone levels of 2,000 nanograms per deciliter? This is ridiculous.
And a common misconception is today we are healthier than our ancestors. We're really not actually any healthier. They were much healthier. They felt much better.
And so, to me, that is debatable. And so your ancestors with no doctors and no dentists who had to literally pull out their teeth and didn't have any surgeries, didn't have any medications, no Tylenol 3s in case you were sick, no surgeries. Oh, they felt way better. Yet, when they got sick, what did they do? If they got stabbed, did they go to the hospital and perhaps get surgery to get better? Or did they just die? And so I'm not going to debate quality of life. You can debate me if you want. I would argue that having a roof over your head and a bed to sleep on and perhaps a heater, a stove to cook your food is better than freezing to death in the winter, day in and day out. But hey, maybe they had it better.
First, I want to talk about sunlight. You could imagine our ancestors stepping outside of a cave and being in the sunlight first thing in the morning. Now, this has testosterone benefits and cognitive benefits.
And so the first thing he's suggesting is get out, like Andrew Huberman says, and get out in the sun first thing in the morning. There's nothing wrong with this. I do agree with this. This is nothing bad. And so when you wake up, open the blinds, look at the sun, and try to get up at a regular, consistent time. Many people are waking up at noon, perhaps staying up all night partying. So clearly, if you go to bed at dark and get up in the morning, it's going to be much healthier. You're going to get higher levels of testosterone.
Now I want to talk about the not so obvious diet stuff. So first of all, at night, it's important to get a source of fat consumption. This is because when you're asleep, that's when your body produces testosterone.
And so he claims that your testosterone is produced at night. It's actually produced all day long. And also, if you eat fat, it can take up to 12 hours to digest. And so if you just claim that you need to have fat before bed to allow your testosterone levels to be produced at night, does that actually make sense? Would it not make so much sense to have fat earlier in the day to allow it to digest and absorb so that it's with you at night? And so I don't think this makes any sense. Eat fat throughout the day. My personal opinion is you should eat 3 to 5 meals a day. Healthy fat should be included in each and every meal if possible, but if not, hey, the more often, the better. And so here's the reality. Everyone says something different. People are like, don't have carbs in the morning. Just have fats and protein. You'll think better. Only have fats at night. Only eat carbs at night. Carb backloading. Carb up, carb down. Carb load. Don't eat this. Don't feed the gremlins after midnight. What are you going to do? I'll tell you what to do. Just eat healthy. This is not going to make any difference. Just eat healthy.
Studies were done on people with high fat compared to normal fat, and just by increasing your fat intake, their testosterone was increased by 30 nanograms a deciliter.
And so there you have it. If you don't have any fat in your diet, you're not eating enough fat versus eating plenty of fat, 30 nanograms per deciliter. So what is my advice? Don't cut out all healthy fats. Have enough fats. I think this is obvious. I think everyone knows this. Don't just eat one macronutrient. Don't just eat protein. Don't just eat fat. Don't just eat carbs. Have a mix of everything. You know what is much easier than listening to all this advice? You can do this, do that. Wake up in the night. Eat fat here, eat fat there. G-test. You know what's so much more simpler than watching this video and trying to make sense of everything? G-test. Scientifically backed ingredients that can improve your testosterone by up to 200 to 400 nanograms per deciliter. Obviously, we know you need to eat healthy. We know you need to exercise. You need to sleep. You need to reduce stress. These are imperative. But one thing you can in fact add is G-test. If you are interested in G-test, click the link in the description, code Greg, 15% off. Why doesn't he just start the video with take G-test? And so just to quickly go over some of the benefits of G-test, if it is in fact increasing your testosterone levels, it may in fact help you to build muscle, but even if it doesn't, is it not going to make you feel better? If you have lower levels of testosterone and it increases your libido, that's how much you want to have sexy time, is that not good? Well, depends. If you have no partner, it might be annoying. And if your partner is already satisfied and you want it more than them, then maybe that makes a problem. But that's for you and your partner to decide. But remember at the start, he listed 4 things. The first one was more energy. Do you not want to have more energy? I think you do. I do. Who doesn't want more energy? And so if you do in fact want more energy, look no further than GO2 Max. You guys think that supplements can't help? I know that supplement sales somehow has gotten a bad rap, but these are in fact made to help people. Help me, help you, help your friends, help whoever. Is it true that I make money selling supplements? Abso-freaking-lutely, of course I do. But doesn't mean that just because I make money doesn't mean it won't help you. And remember, this has NMN. Please do your research. And if you do, I guarantee you're going to see just how beneficial this can be in the real world. And last I checked, the cavemen, I can't be sure, I don't think they had G-test. Don't think they had GO2 Max. I don't even think they had Turk Builder. Perhaps they did. But if they did, what I can guarantee is they perhaps would have felt better. They would have had perhaps more endurance. They would have been able to do cardio. And you can argue all day long that, yeah, they got up and looked at the light and they had better lives and it was so much more enjoyable. And life was great 15,000 years ago. Perhaps, sure. But could it not have been better? Remember, we as a species have evolved. We've evolved to make our lives better and or easier. And so what did the caveman do? The caveman sought to be the best versions of themselves. And what did those cavemen become? Me and you. That's what they became. That is what they wanted. They worked their asses off to have a better life, an easier life. They did not like freezing to death all winter. And so they built a house. They learned how to do things. And eventually they learned how to develop supplements like freaking G-test and GO2 Max. And so if you're against using supplements because, hey, the caveman had testosterone levels of 2,000 nanograms per deciliter, well, what they did was they evolved to this level so that they could do this right now.
Stay away from processed foods. We don't know what 90% of the ingredients are.
And so his next tip is stay away from processed foods. I think everyone can agree with me that we shouldn't overdo processed foods. Obviously, I'm not telling you to stop eating anything processed and never have it again. But remember, everything in moderation.
Sugar is another thing that really bad for your testosterone. When people consume sugar, their testosterone drops by 25%.
I'm going to have to disagree. Just because you're having sugar, your testosterone's dropping by 25%. And even if it is it being sustained? Is it going to be lowered for the rest of your life? If I'm in a bike race and I'm racing harder than last time, and I just burn off 1,000 calories in an hour, and I have another hill to climb, and if somebody says, here's some sugar, or here's some fiber, here's a salad, I'm eating the sugar. Give me the freaking chemical-filled candy bar because I need some energy to get up that hill. And so technically in the literature, what sugar does is it decreases your SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, which increases your free testosterone. And so just because this guy says don't eat sugar because the study said so, doesn't mean that eating sugar is ruining your life. It all depends on when and how much. If you're an athlete, I'm telling you it's okay to have sugar. Do you really think that eating strawberries, which has sugar, is going to be detrimental to your health? It's going to lower your testosterone? Pretty sure the cavemen out there were eating fruit. Fruit had sugar. And so if you're interested in checking out this guy's full-length video, his name is Jacob Ruker. He did an excellent job. Very entertaining. It has already 39,000 views. He only has 1.7 thousand followers. And so he's very passionate about increasing his testosterone. My personal opinion is it's already high enough that there's no way he's going to increase it to 1,200. But hey, let him prove me wrong. He's doing it 100% natural. He's not using performance enhancing drugs. He clearly has very elite level genetics. And so let's give him a follow. Remember, if you're interested in increasing your testosterone levels, you're not a teenager, you can head over to my website. You can get G-test or 3-test to specifically increase testosterone. But if you're looking to build muscle, you can get Acti Builder or Turk Builder. And if you're looking to increase your endurance cardio, you can get GO2 Max. We also have a host of other supplements, pre-workouts, creatine, beta-alanine, all you could ever ask for. Head over to my website, code Greg, 15% off. Subscribe, click that bell button. Comment, it'll boost the algorithm, and like the video if you liked it. Watch one of those two bloops. And of course, you get coaching plans by me and my team. I've got all kinds of books here. I've got the training books, several of those, the cookbooks, and the Circle Diet book. You can get all these on my website, PDF and hard copy, several different types. Please head over there right now. Also, if you have no money, free diet and training program, close to 50 pages in length. Also, become one of the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers. And until next time, I am out.